So when it comes to Guardian, Guardian is a tank melee that is primarily focused around being a damage dealer and playing around with the elements. Now when it comes to elements, there are 8 elements that are split up into 2 skills equally. So when it comes to the first skill, which is your auto, it has the earth, ice, light and water. Then your third ability, which has the darkness, energy, fire and wind. Those elements, you imbue your elements to have additional effects, which kind of like buffs Guardian to be a really decent damage dealer. Now, when it comes to those skills, it's primarily focused on being RNG. So you can get your elements to stack in your favor or go against you. Now, this could be a S tier damage dealer. It just falls off because the RNG just doesn't make it so worthwhile. Now, when it comes to the damage, it can do over 50k DPS on solo. It can easily go to 30k when you have potions. Now, I did use Feely. I did not use Honor. I use Feely because it allows me to rotate the skills more effectively than keep on relying on the force ability. Now you don't have to use the force ability, it's only there for failsafe if you don't have any mana. So when it comes to actually being a decent damage dealer, you kind of have to rely on luck, because when it comes to having proper precision with this class, you need to kind of play with your elements, and the elements only last for 4 seconds before you imbue it. If you imbue it, depending on the elements, it goes up to 20 seconds, 10 seconds, and 3 seconds. The 3 seconds are the ones that are very potent. Now, this class does use AE or enhancements that allows you to have additional effects with your skills. Now you can use Spire Carve, which is the DPS version of this class, which makes this class extremely viable in ultras and bosses. It makes it be up to chrono level. Then we also got Area Blast, which is basically additional healing and survivability on this class. This class has some defense and has some healing and sustainability. So soloing is not that hard. I just do not recommend it because it does have some RNG elements to the survivability and sustain, and on its passive side it does have a negative effect which kind of ruins it, as well as your first ability as well. First ability also reduces your damage resistance as well. So if you keep on spamming your first ability, you're rocking with a negative 50% damage resistance. Now, you can use this class for solo, but there are better options if you want a more stable. But if you have a party, this class goes absolutely crazy. Now, you can use this class for farming, but I would recommend it on more tankier mobs. Now, for PvP, it's a little bit gimmicky because you have some abilities that works with allies, but it really just falls off because you kind of need your buffs to make you irrelevant. Relevant. Yes, relevant. Okay. Now when it comes to Guardian Classic. Yeah, so when it comes to the classic version of Guardian, this class is kind of mediocre at best. Now, so when it comes to the classic version of this class, now it is really weird because kind of picture it as a glorified warrior. Now, it has nice effects that could go in your favor. It has a really high defense with its fourth ability, which if you do not have Keen active, you have a 50% damage resistance. But the catch is you don't have any healing. So solo with this class is a no-go unless you use health vamp, dauntless. Now this class is a hybrid, so if you use physical enhancement, this class will suffer on damage. So whatever you do with sustain for this class, you kind of have to sacrifice damage, because this class has a passive that increases strength and intelligence, so just note about that as well. Now the second ability does reduce the target's outgoing damage, which is the damage boost, by 5%. It's not a lot, so this class kind of acts like a tank in a way, even though it's a hybrid. It has a stun, but it's based on percentage on the third ability. Now, what this makes this class nice, it has a 50% crit chance, which is really nice for a pretty much a starter class. I kind of pictured this as a starter class because it doesn't have any sustain, and mana is not a problem. I noticed that when I don't have a problem with mana on a class, it's usually a problem in your lower level. So when it comes to this class, you can use it for bosses, but again, your damage output is not that high. At best, you might be doing 20k DPS, so just take note on that. Also have a random AoE with your first ability, which does somewhat decent damage if you're lucky, but again, the buffs I was doing with Cthulhu wasn't that much. Even though I was doing over 100k damage, that was all support that was doing the damage. Now, you can use this class for farming, but just note that when it comes to farming, you need to pay attention for your health or you're gonna die. You could use Dauntless for this, which makes this class a lot more fun, I guess. Not as fun as the original Guardian class, which that class is an absolute beast. But this class can actually do well with hard hitting mobs. Just note that you kind of have to rest every time you kill a mob. So just note about that. And don't try the solo with this class. It's not viable. Yes, you have a 50% damage resistance. It's not going to save you because you have no sustain for your healing. Now, you can use this class for PvP as a non-OP PvP baseline, I suppose. But furthermore, I wouldn't suggest it. Other verification classes, Guardian is probably the most broken. And have a nice day. Cheers.